Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. When we scan the reggae scene, there are very few remaining icons who were an integral part of the history and evolution of the genre, from ska to rocksteady, roots reggae, down to dancehall, and even lovers rock. One of the artists in this category is the fabulous and fantastic Freddie McGregor. He's been in the music industry for an astounding 60 years, and at just 67 years of age, it means he's been a musician for more than 90% of his wonderful life. He was the youngest child star in Jamaican history and became a backup vocalist for one of the island's reigning harmony duos at the tender age of 7. Alongside his best friend, Dennis Brown, and Delroy Wilson, they made up the trio of gifted kids that were taken under the wing of legendary producer Coxsone Dodd at the also legendary Studio One, an institution that was known as the University of Reggae. Little Freddie was destined to become a legend in reggae music. Imagine a 7-year-old boy in Studio One watching and learning how to perform from the likes of the Wailers, picking up skills from elite instrumentalists like Leroy Horsemouth Wallace and Jackie Mitu, and learning the music business from Coxsone Dodd himself, who didn't just employ him to work at the studio, but more or less took him in to live with him like his own adopted son, shielding him from the corrosive influences that usually damage child stars in the music industry. What you get is one of reggae's most enduring, consistent, and most successful musicians, as well as an exquisite vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, and incredible producer. By the time he came into his own, alongside his friend Dennis Brown and Gregory Isaacs, they were the favorites of the ladies and established themselves at the forefront of the reggae scene after the untimely passing of Bob Marley in 1981. He grew from a little country boy from Clarendon to a Jamaican institution and one of reggae's greatest success stories. Let's take a look at the story of Freddie McGregor. His life began on June 27, 1956, in a small town called Hayes in the Clarendon parish of Jamaica. He was your average little schoolboy, attending Hayes Primary School and growing up in a loving family with his factory worker stepfather and school teacher mother. He was born with amazing singing talent and would take part in school concerts every Thursday. These concerts featured a singer backed up by a piano player. The best piano player in Hayes Primary School was a much older student named Ernest Wilson. Ernest and Freddie became something of a duo, with Freddie on vocals and Ernest on the piano. This partnership would last for only a year, as Ernest would graduate from school and move to Kingston to pursue a music career with another Clarendon-born singer called Peter Austin. Those two went on to form a duo called the Clarendonians that was named in honor of their parish, and they would record a number of hit songs for Coxsone Dodd that would become big hits on the island and made the duo a household name. They visited Hayes very often, and Ernest Wilson's home was very close to Little Freddie's, and both lads would reconnect during those homecomings. During such visits, the Clarendonians would rehearse daily at Ernest's house, and Little Freddie never missed an opportunity to watch. And eventually, he would start trying to harmonize with the duo while they sang. Ernest knew that Little Freddie was talented, but hadn't heard him sing in a while. In his absence, Freddie had become even better and was now a local celebrity. The Clarendonians were blown away by what they heard and decided that they had to take Freddie with them back to Kingston to meet Coxsone Dodd. But at just 7, they knew it would be almost impossible for them to convince Freddie's mom. So Ernest came up with the idea to get his mom, who was also a school teacher, to convince Freddie's mom to allow him leave. So Mrs. Wilson spoke to Mrs. McGregor and eventually convinced her. And a few days after, they were on their way. They took Freddie to Studio One and introduced him to Coxsone Dodd. After hearing him sing, Dodd immediately put him on as one of the vocalists under the Studio One label. And more importantly, he moved Little Freddie into his home to live with him and his family to make sure that the boy was well taken care of and far from the vices in Kingston that could derail him. He also enrolled Little Freddie in junior high school. So Freddie would go to school in the morning and come to work at Studio One in the evenings as an errand boy and vocalist. Freddie would forever credit Coxsone Dodd adopting him as the greatest single element of his great success in life. Reggae commentators and fans bash Coxsone Dodd all the time for his business dealings with his artists, but as far as Freddie McGregor's story is concerned, he's an absolute angel. In those days, Freddie kept his ears and eyes wide open, watching superstars walk in and out of the studio and picking up the skills that would be the building blocks of his own great future career. After the Clarendonians broke up, he teamed up with Ernest Wilson and formed a short-lived duo called Freddie and Fitzroy. By the 1970s, Freddie became full-time studio personnel as session drummer and a backup singer. He also became a lead vocalist for bands like Generation Gap and Soul Syndicate. and in time would seriously consider a solo career. In 1975, he and his pal Dennis Brown became Rastafarians and members of the 12 Tribes of Israel group. This spiritual conversion had a profound effect on Freddie's music. After more than a decade of singing love songs, he began to record conscious material with songs like I'm Man a Rasta and Rasta Man Camp. He was already a well-known artist, but those songs began to really set him apart and raise his profile in Jamaica. But it would be a collaboration with a firebrand roots reggae-oriented producer that would make him a superstar. This producer was Winston Holness, aka Niney the Observer. Dennis Brown, who had already begun to work with Niney on Rasta-oriented music for his own album, encouraged Freddie to do the same. By 1976, they began work on Freddie's debut album, which was eventually released in 1977 and was named Mr. McGregor. It was a classic roots reggae compilation that established him as one of the hottest artists in Jamaica. He would return to Studio One and went to work on his second album titled Bobby Babylon, which came out in 1979 and became a smash hit both critically and commercially. He wasn't only excelling as a recording artist, but was also making impact as a producer at Studio One. Coxsone Dots Outfits had experienced a slight decline in fortunes due to intense competition from other studios like Channel One, but McGregor helped to revitalize the studio's fortunes when he began to produce for a slew of artists, including Johnny Osborne, Jennifer Lara, and Judy Mort, whose 1979 album, Black Woman, would benefit from Freddie's magic touch. Interestingly, Freddie and Judy would start a relationship that produced their only daughter, Yashima Beth McGregor, in 1979. The 1980s opened up very brightly for Freddie as he unleashed a string of well-selling singles back-to-back at the start of that decade. But around that time, the reggae scene experienced a sad blow with the death of Bob Marley in 1981. But the trio of friends in Freddie, Dennis Brown, and Gregory Isaacs did a lot to lift the gloom. The trio were incredible silky and soulful vocalists that the ladies loved to bits, and their popularity would skyrocket. But unlike his two friends who had picked up a deadly cocaine habit, Freddie stayed clean and focused. In 1981, he would release arguably his most successful single in the phenomenal Big Ship. He got the inspiration for that masterpiece one early morning while waiting outside the home of popular artist and producer Linval Thompson. In the distance, he saw a huge shipping vessel with a large load of cargo sailing into the harbor and immediately got the inspiration for the song and began to compose the tune with the guitar on his lap. The song Big Ship turned out to be a massive hit that would reach number 1 in Jamaica. The same year, he released an album of the same name, which also enjoyed great success. After the performance of Big Ship, he would bag an international record deal with Ras Records and released 2 albums which opened up the UK and US markets. He established his own record label, Big Ship Records, in 1986, under which he released his new album, All in the Same Boat, in the same year. And that album produced his first UK chart hit with the song Push Come to Shove. But by that time, his music was a far cry from the roots reggae territory of his earlier works, and he was criticized by his hardcore fans for selling out. But the truth is that at the time, dancehall had overrun roots reggae, so to survive, he undertook to attempt a crossover sound. For his next album, in 1987's Freddie McGregor, he returned to a more balanced roots and lovers rock sound and scored a massive hit with the song Just Don't Want to Be Lonely, which went up to number 9 on the UK charts. By then, he wasn't just a bankable international music star, but his label began to attract a lot of talent. And by the 1990s, he had plenty of old and new artists on the Big Ship roster, including Luciano, Flower Gun, Richie Stephens, Marcel Griffiths, and many more. He slowed down on recording by the end of the 1990s and focused more on production, but still kept up on touring and headlining the biggest reggae concerts on the planet. He released 7 albums in the 90s, bagging many awards and a Grammy nomination for his 2002 album, Anything For You. He returned to the studio for his 2022 album, Breath of Fresh Air, and was scheduled to join UB40 on tour in December, when he suffered a stroke that saw him hospitalized in the US by the end of December. His ill health gave his fans a big scare, but videos of him holding mini concerts in the hospital showed that he was recovering. Though still on the mend and undergoing therapy, he's refused to let his illness keep him from his first love and what he's been doing for more than 60 years of his life. In July this year, he made a triumphant return to the stage with a performance at the Sunfest Festival and delivered an emotional show, and would eventually shed tears at the incredible outpouring of support and love from his fans. Since then, he's also appeared at other major concerts around the world, making a big statement and showing that he's not leaving the stage anytime soon. It may take a while, but I can bet that the great Freddie McGregor will be back to winning ways, doing what the world has loved and adored him for over the past 60 years. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.